I'm gonna blame it on you tomorrow.
Sorry, they all didn't tell you.
Now you're on tape. Okay. Me? No. Where's the sign in?
Over
Here. You put it on the table over there. Fine. The next part of this chapter talks about the different types of approaches for coming up with the value of the property. What was the last page we were on?
54, regression.
All right, if you go on, what's the number again?
354.
354. Go to the middle of 354. And what's it say?
Introduction to the three approaches to value.
So how many approaches are there to value?
Three.
What are they?
Sales, cost, and income.
Okay, the three that you see listed there. Now, I have a few questions about those three that are in your notes. So you can put your pens and highlighters down for a moment. Well, let's just kind of set up the thought pattern here. One of them you use every day. It's called the comparable sales approach, which is exactly what you do every time you go to buy something, and you go to 8 places before you will buy something. My wife drives everybody nuts, but she gets the best deals. And the money she saves is a whole lot more. And she tells me she's saving me money, which I can't argue with that. She is. She's getting it for half of what that you would normally pay for it, so she did save me money. And then when my daughter was little, she used to come home. When they come home, she'd run off. If I was home, she'd run over and tell me everything that my wife bought that day.
But it was on sale, Daddy.
I never counted pennies. I have a single family home. Which one of these three methods should I use to estimate its value?
Variable sales method?
All of it. If I have a commercial building, which method should I use? All of them. If I have a warehouse, which method should I use?
All of them.
But would you agree that one of the three, depending on the type of property, may be more appropriate?
Yeah.
Yes.
If you've ever looked at, I should get it out. On the appraisal report, on the first 2 pages of it, it identifies the three methods and explains why. Now, in residential, which one for sure is not going to be used? Income. Why? No comes. How do I calculate income that doesn't exist? Unless you've got a community where 85% of the homes are rentals, now maybe we got a different story. Which method would best reflect the principle of substitution? Cost. What was the principle of substitution? That a consumer would not pay more for a property than they could acquire a similar property for.
Comparable.
Variable sales method?
What was the question?
You said was a good substitution for
Oh, okay. Which method best represents the principle of substitution? Comparable sales. But in income capitalization and in cost depreciation, they still use cost. Because if I'm calculating the rent for this building, do I have to compare this building to the market to see what the market is paying in rent? If I don't do that, when I go to calculate it, my numbers will be
Right.
incorrect. Which method would require you to separate the building away from the land?
Cost?
Answer is cost. Why?
What it costs you to build whatever is on, whatever that's worth, the building on the land, land is separate.
Cost of the building.
Well, number one, land does not have cost.
Exactly, it's the.
And number two, it does not depreciate.
Right, so
Because what are the two concepts in cost depreciation that are used to find value? Let me try this one more time. What two concepts in cost depreciation are used to estimate value?
Cost of depreciation.
Thank you. That's why they call it cost depreciation. But in and of its very name, it tells me that it cannot include the land. That would have to be calculated separately, as if it was vacant. If I told you that it would cost $500,000 to build this building, using the cost appreciation method, what's the maximum value of the building?
$500,000.
500,000. Because if there is any depreciation, that 500,000 would start going down. But I'm just using the concepts of the words. I haven't put any detail to it yet.
So it costs 500,000, and the second it's built, it starts depreciating. That's really what happens.
Yeah.
So it starts going down.
Now, you understand, we're talking about real depreciation here, not IRS depreciation. When we talk about depreciation here, we're talking about an actual decline in the value. Normally, the land is not considered to depreciate. That's why when you get to the cost appreciation approach, you have a little problem. You can't use the word cost and the word depreciation in discussing the value of the land and with the building. So in this theory of cost appreciation, the current cost of the building is the building's maximum present value. Now, I didn't say that the whole thing was worth that number. We then have to calculate the value of the land and the value of the site improvements. Does this piece of property here, is it more than just land? Does it have an infrastructure?
Yeah,
Meaning
parking lot.
parking lot,
Shrubbery.
shrubbery? You can jump in anytime.
Sidewalk.
Well, let me ask you a question. Did you drive in on the land?
No.
Or did you drive in on asphalt?
Asphalt.
You don't know what you're talking That answers the question to start with. And you probably just barely missed the trees. That whole concept of KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. Now, I don't allow stupid people.
Right. Well, student.
Stupid is as stupid does. I always like that. I wonder why they got all those sayings. I mean, you think of that movie, it's like it has 6 zillion different.
I wanted to write a book on that, every time, you know, one of these expressions came out.
I never watched for it.
Yeah, no, every day you come up with words, you don't.
But it comes from the dialect. Like I said before, even where I lived in Virginia, it was different on one side of the mountain than the other, phraseology they use. All right. Let's talk about cost appreciation. I'm sorry, let's do comparative sales first. We'll get to the notes in a minute. In comparable sales, what do I need? What information do I need in order to use this method to come up with the estimated value of the subject property?
You need a message.
Sales price?
Matt,
Values of similar property.
the value?
The size.
The sold price.
All right, the sold price, okay.
So, but it has to be.
What else?
Similar property.
Yeah.
Similar property.
Bedroom, bathroom.
Not identical?
Well, as close to identical as you can get.
Either is it similar or identical? Which one?
Similar.
Comparable.
There's not gonna be an identical.
Similar, it doesn't have to be exact.
Right, it does not have to be exact. See, this is the method that should be the easiest for you. Because it's based so much on this idea of comparison that we do every day of our life. Question. I have a single-family home that's being appraised. If we're using the cost appreciation approach, and I tell you that a property 2 doors down, the same model, sold for $100,000. The only difference between the two of them is the comp, that's a swimming pool, and our subject property, which is the one being appraised, doesn't. Now, as an appraiser, would you have to adjust for the potential value difference between having a pool and not having a pool?
Yes.
So the first thing the appraiser would have to do is to see if the having a pool would be a positive factor in that community, and let's assume it is. And let's say the pool is estimated to be worth $8,000. What's the value of the subject property? Well, let me ask you, forget that. What adjustment would you make to the subject property to make them more similar?
Minus $8,000.
Minus the value of the pool from 100,000.
Nothing.
Nothing?
Tell me what value the subject property has that you can subtract or add that 8,000.
Well, you
I asked you a question, and I want an answer, not a well.
said it was the same except for the pool. So
Right.
and you said it
But
was
my
100,000.
question is, how can you adjust the subject property when it has no value to adjust? Because that's what we're trying to find.
Yeah.
Which means you always have to adjust the comparable. And well, it's a deep subject. You always have to adjust the comparable. Because you can't adjust the subject. It has no value to adjust.
So how would you adjust that?
Well, let's
You would
see.
add it?
Let's,
Add the
do me a
8,000?
favor. When you ask me a question,
I can't answer.
give me a
it.
chance. Yeah,
I
no,
can
no.
try to answer.
Well, then why don't you just answer it, and then, when you get through,
And then
I'll
you
go
can
ahead.
call me and.
Now, visualization, you ready? Subject property. When will it move? When will the subject property move? Never.
Nothing.
Any adjustment made would have to be made to which property? The comparable, because it's the only one with a value on it to adjust. So, in comparing the fact that the comparable had a pool, the number's not relevant. There's the subject. This would be the ideal comparable. One that was so similar to the subject property, no adjustment need to be made. However, that's not the case here. Is the comparable superior or inferior to the subject property?
Superior.
Then they're not equal anymore. So what do I have to do? I have to take the 8,000 away from the comparable to make it similar to the subject. And I do that with each feature in the property that makes the two of them different. And you have to do a minimum of 3 of those when you do an appraisal. But the key is you always have to look at how it affects the comparable. No matter how they word the question, you have to look at how it affects the comparable, because that will dictate your plus or your minus. So it's something you have to take a moment and think before you answer. All right, let's go to the book. Let's go to page 354. Let's put a bracket around lines 10 through 33 on 354. And then at the top of page 355, it talks about sales comparison approach. Put a star, I'm sorry, no star. Put a bracket starting with sales comparison approach to the bottom of the page.
You said 1 through 4 also.
No, just from sales comparison. It continues on 356. The chart at the top, the chart in the middle, and 4 through 19 at the bottom. So I guess basically the whole page. Now, everybody pay attention. In the middle of this page, at figure 16.1, where it says adjustment grid, you will notice that you have the subject property information. No, you don't have the subject property information. You'll notice they have 3 columns, and they do the adjustments. Well, here's the problem. If you'll notice, right near the bottom of that chart, it says adjusted sales price. And notice there's 3 different prices. So when the appraiser adjusts the 3 comparables that they used, the odds are they're not all come up with the same number. So there's going to have to be a reconciliation down to the final estimate of value. There's where personal opinion, and this is why appraising is an art and not a science, why it's an estimate of value and not a statement of value. Now, you see in the bottom of that chart, the word reconciliation.
Mhm.
And you'll see to the right of it, it says comp 1, 2, 3, then gives you a dollar amount and percentages, and they eventually come up with a rounded off number of 138. All of that little example, that reconciliation, is a star.
The 20, 30, and 50. What is that?
Oh, not yet.
Oh,
It's just the reconciliation portion.
Yeah. Which includes all those numbers and everything.
Yeah.
On 357,
Yeah.
yes. Somebody have a question? On 357, whole page, bracket.
Yes.
Okay. That reconciliation, that little chart, has a star. On page 356, that little reconciliation example has a star. Well, okay, good. Then I didn't forget. All right, let's go back to 355. On the bottom of 356, some basic information about some of the parameters and requirements of the cost, sales of comparison and cost comparison approach. You'll see the two bullets on 355. One says it has to occur recently, that's usually within the last 6 months, if at all possible. And comparables must be similar to the subject. That makes sense. I wouldn't compare my house to this building. Wouldn't make sense. The bottom of the page, lines 19 through 30, there's where they go into the adjustment process. And the main thing to remember is when you're adjusting, you always adjust to the comparable. Simply because the comparable is the only thing that has a number that allows us to adjust. If you're given a problem to work, they have to give you all the information. They have to tell you the price of the comp. They have to tell you the features that make them different. They have to give you the dollar value of each one of those items. So really what I'm doing to come up with the answer is figuring out everything that's different. Does it make the comparable inferior or superior? If it makes it inferior, whatever that value is has to be added to make the comparable more similar to the subject. If the next item makes the comparable superior, I gotta bring that value off the comp to bring it back to the level of the subject. So I'm always coming back to the level of the subject by adjusting the comparable in whichever direction is necessary to get back to that level. When I took this class, and I had questions on both the class test and the state exam, I visualized myself doing what I did with my hands. I figured I probably shouldn't do that in the middle of the test. I might go over too well. But that visualization helped me. Comparable superior, I gotta make them equal, I gotta subtract. Comparable inferior, I gotta make them equal, I have to add. So if you can visualize that, you won't make mistakes. Again, this is another place where I'm more worried about the people that are good at math than the people that aren't. because of the fact that you have a tendency to zip through things that look easy to you. And you never make careless mistakes, so I'm not talking to you. All right, moving over if we can to the bottom of 356. I'll come back to that chart in a second. On page 356, down near the bottom, but it happens to be line 4, it says adjustment process sample. It says the appraiser prepares the adjustment grid by first entering the street address and the sales price of each selected company. Adjustments for transactional differences such as conditions of sale, financing terms, and changes in the market conditions since the date of the sale are made first, followed by adjustment for property characteristics. So the first thing I adjust for is financing terms. Do financing terms have a tendency to affect what somebody pays for something?
Yeah.
Where would they typically overpay? Based by value. Cash. Unless you do what? Put a provision in the contract that says, I want the right to appraise the property. I will not pay you more than its value is. But in sales, cash sales, you rarely see that happen. So these factors may have affected it, and you don't know. You'll notice the bullets. The first one was financing terms, and then conditions of sale, and then market conditions. As far as test questions, for whatever reason, this one that's called market conditions, meaning the market's value has gone up or down 5%, seems to be a very common transactional term that they will use. Everything else, they talk about square footage, they talk about landscaping, but just about everything else would fall under the physical characteristics of the property. Baths, square footages. By the way, I have a 4-bedroom and I have a 3-bedroom. There is more square footage in the 4-bedroom than in the 3. Would I adjust for square footage, for rooms, or both?
Oh,
Then you would have double adjusted.
what?
Well, why do you think the one had more square footage than the other? 9 times out of 10, what would be the reason?
9, yeah, it's 2 bedrooms.
Oh, okay, thank you.
9
And I just told you there was an extra bedroom.
Right.
So you can't adjust for square footage and for rooms. You have to choose one or the other. Unless you can justify that in that particular case, one has nothing to do with the other, which is possible.
A 3-bedroom could have more square footage
Yes.
than a 4-bedroom.
Yeah. Well, that's why I have to know the characteristics of my comps in comparison to my subject property. So the less adjustments I have to make, the more accurate my answer is.
So I have a question. If you were to have
Who's you?
anything,
No, you can't be anybody. This is a real estate class. You
Okay.
can't be anybody. You can't be a buyer or a seller.
you can't be a buyer?
No, you can come here to be a buyer and seller. I explained that to you the first night.
No, but it's relative to this question. If there was a 3-bedroom that had more square footage than the 4-bedroom,
Mhm.
and everything else about it
Mhm.
was the same. What, would you value them equally, because the 4-bedroom negates the extra square footage?
Now do you want the professionals to answer that question?
Yeah. That's
Because
what-
I asked an appraiser one time that very question, and his answer was, it depends on whether the marketplace is willing to pay more for 4 bedrooms.
Okay,
Right.
there's the answer.
That's why it's an estimate of value, not a statement of value. Because there's no absolutes. That's why if you put 3 appraisers on this building, you probably get 3 different answers. Tell you what, let's bring an appraiser down from Chicago in the middle of January and have him appraise this building with a flat roof. And we'll use an appraiser from here that's been doing appraisals here their whole career. Do you think there would be any sort of difference
Yeah.
in their interpretation of the value of that?
Yes.
Because the guy from Chicago would be thinking what? First big snowstorm, and that roof will be on the floor. Also, they have books that are regionalized that gives them guidelines by which to come up with these adjustments. But again, every appraiser is going to have a different opinion. Let's try it again. Yeah, you realize to work this problem, everything you see they would have to give you in a question?
Yep.
There's nothing there that's a standard number. Okay. What number would we start with? 100. If there were no difference, what would be the adjusted sales price of the comparable? 100. Okay.
You don't take into account the increase in the market?
I
If they're the
said that
same?
they were the same.
They're what?
If they're the
If they
same,
were the same, then the market conditions would be the same now as it was then. Okay. What are we gonna do first?
Well, does it matter what do you?
Yes, it does. I just got to doing that about 5 minutes ago. Bottom of what page is that right there?
56.
Bottom of page 56. We went over the sequence.
Huh? Top one, Patrick.
I want you to tell me which item I would adjust first and why. Because I've already told you what it is and why. Pool is not the right answer.
Financing, right?
There are no financing terms. I don't put any financing terms up there. I even told you which one they use.
On market conditions.
Thank you, market conditions. I even told you that the typical one they use for transactional characteristics, because they're the first things you adjust for, is market conditions. And the reason you have to do it first, it's the only one that's given to you in a percentage. So if I take 5% of 100,000 versus 5% of the adjusted number at the end, I'd have a different number. So, my question is the comparables marketplace superior or inferior to today's marketplace?
Is
Superior.
Is superior, because it's 6 months later, so it should have gone up.
So the comparable is superior?
No, the comparable's inferior.
Okay, that's not what you said.
I know, that's what I said, I said the subject is.
We're not supposed to talk about the subject, are we? Are we?
That's what you asked me.
Are we?
Okay.
No, I didn't hear your
All
answer.
right.
Okay. Because me being right doesn't seem to be working. Make that mistake, you get to take the state exam over again. Because once you screw up one of them, you screw them all. Because one plays off the other. Now, today's market is superior to yesterday's market, which means the comparables market is inferior to the today's market. So we need to adjust upward to show that change. So what number would I put here?
plus 10,000.
5,000 in 6 months.
How much?
5,000.
It says
It's on an annual.
It says annual.
And 6 months ago, the house sold, so it's only half a year.
Oh, I have to read all the questions, not just part of it?
Yeah.
Does everybody see that? That's the select rule move they call. Wait for the picture until I finish. Okay, so do I adjust up or down?
Take it off.
Well, let's see. Here's the subject. When it comes to market conditions, what's the comparable? The comparable marketplace is inferior to today's marketplace
They have to make.
because it's gone up 5%. So I have to what? And you'll notice how I'm doing it. I'm not stacking one of the adjustments on top of the other. I'm taking that number down, so I've got my adjusted sales price when I get through. Okay? From this point on, it doesn't matter which one you do. What I normally do is, once I get the percentage out of the way, I just start at the beginning of the question and go to the end of it. So, let's see. Let's look at bedrooms and baths. When it comes to bedrooms, what's the comparable?
5,000?
Is comparable superior or inferior? Do you hear those two words?
Yes.
I want to hear you use those words, not yours.
Inferior.
I don't want to hear your words. I want
Inferior.
inferior or superior.
Inferior.
Then I have to do what?
Add the 5,000.
To bring the comparable back to the level of the subject. So that's another 5.
So add 5, or would you divide the 5 by 3 and add whatever that is? Does that make sense?
No. 5,000 a bedroom.
Okay.
How would you do that?
I know there's like the per bathroom was a total cost.
Okay, we're at $100.
No.
No?
No.
Okay, let's not get hostile. Okay. Because I have the red pen, I can do anything down the middle. All right, now we look at the bedrooms. The comparable is
Inferior.
Superior.
Superior.
I mean bath.
bathrooms.
Bathrooms.
Superior.
Is the comparable superior or inferior when it comes to
Superior.
We got one extra bathroom.
Okay, so that means
Subtract.
I gotta subtract the worth of the
2,000.
bath.
So,
Then you're
no,
gonna.
we
Subtract.
we're subtracting, right?
Yeah. 108.
108.
It's 2,000, yes.
Right.
108.
Well, this was 110.
Yeah.
Are you
Minus
taking
2,000
2,000 away?
off 108.
This is, no, this is,
That's
110
what today's
minus
what buys
2,000.
to.
Right.
Yeah.
Is 108.
I want to wait.
And then subtract 12,000.
what else haven't we adjusted for?
The pool.
Okay. When it comes to the pool, what's the comparable?
Superior.
Superior. So in order to make it equal to the subject, I would have to subtract. That leaves me with
96.
what's that number represent?
The appraised value.
Nope.
That's the comparable value.
It is the adjusted it's the adjusted price of the comparable. I need to do this 2 more times and then reconcile to tell you the estimated value of the subject property.
Okay.
Because that's what the appraiser does on page 2 of the appraisal. He has columns. Each column represents one of the comps. And he goes through his adjustments and comes up with an adjusted sales price. And he does it 3 times. And then he will come to a point of saying, you know, I don't remember the exact wording, but something to the effect that, you know, based upon the factors reviewed, the subject property's estimated value is X amount of dollars. A lot of people, when they work this problem, they don't start with the price and do each one individually. They kind of try to say, well, I add this one, I subtract this one, I add that one, I subtract this one. That's a faster way of doing it than this. this is the safe way. You won't make the mistake of adding when you should or subtracting. Except for me, I'll do it to the judge. But you always have to go back to that, is the comparable inferior or superior? I don't care which one you're doing, it doesn't matter. It's the same thought process. If you get the thought process down, this is an easy point.
The mortgage is that's the most important thing, that you do that first. The mortgage
Why?
adjustment, because that's the number you work for.
Problem.
Because if you do it at the end, it
Has nothing to do with anybody in this room. It's the way it is done in appraising.
Oh,
So you don't consider like a new roof or air conditioner or anything in doing that?
Do they both have new roofs?
No, one might not.
Why didn't you tell me that then?
Okay.
You understand? This is an example, but point well taken. There's a ton of different things when you start doing an appraisal. Now be careful with appraisal versus inspection. Those are two different events. Now, what happens with one, with the inspection, could obviously have an impact upon the value. Maybe not necessarily the value, but it might affect the
the
price.
price.
Questions on that? I mean, we can sit here and do it all night. We can do the same thing over and over and over again, so I think it's kind of a waste of time.
I can't think what you put under the market is in there.
It's increasing 10% on an annual basis.
Okay.
That's my chicken scratch.
And the
That's
other-
my doctor handwriting.
The two-car garage worth $8,000 is just in there to, because they both have two-car garages, and you don't want to get fooled by the fact that you have,
I wouldn't get fooled. If
No,
they're
I'm
the
saying-
same, I don't have to make adjustments.
they might be like that, but you might think, I always read too much into it, so.
You don't have to make an adjustment on the garage
No.
if you didn't have one.
You don't read too much into questions. You
At
just
least I
rewrite
know-
them.
I know my fault.
You just rewrite them. I see you do a lot of writing.
Writing?
Reading.
Reading.
I mean, you do a lot of reading.
Well,
I'm not talking about Facebook.
yeah.
I'm talking about real reading. You have a problem. You don't read. You scan.
I see.
And if you scan on this test, scanning means that you do this. Because most of the stuff I'm reading is to get information. I don't have to remember every damn word on the page. So that's why they'll put the twist words out here instead in the middle, where your eyes are focused. So if you read across the page instead of up and down the page, you won't get caught with stuff like that. That's mechanics. It's just a thought. Because if you find that you're missing words, and it seems like every time you're missing them, they're out here on the edge rather than in the middle, then that's the mechanics of how you're reading. And you see that one word can do what?
Change everything.
Totally change an end. So just a full thought. And I don't care, I don't like the word tricks. It's not tricks. Tricks are for kids.
TRX.
On a roll today. Maybe an hour. Okay. Let's go to 356. I want to go down to that little reconciliation thing that I had you do in the middle of page 356. you'll see they took the three comps from the example above, and they multiplied one of them by 3%, 20%, one by 30%, one by 50%. And then they added those three up to get the estimated value of the subject property. That is what is referred to as a weighted average, meaning they're putting more weight on one of those comparables than the other. And if you look back up at the three comps, number 3 was the one they put the most weight on. When you look at it and compare it to the other comps, it's the one that's most similar to the subject property. Now, how do they come up with the 20, 30, and 50? Well, on the test, they'd have to give it to you. In real life, the appraiser would make that decision. Which is probably why you don't see too many reconciliation, this type of reconciliation, this weighted average. The problem that they would give you here is a very easy problem. They will tell you the adjusted prices of the three comps. They will tell you what % each one of those represent. So all you've got to do is 3 multiplications and add those 3 answers up, and that's it. Somebody had a question?
Is the weighted average based off of most recently sold, or are there other factors that they put it to?
They're based on whatever they tell you on the test.
So,
Yeah.
whatever the weighted, the multiplication, you're saying it's not a constant, it varies, so in some instances.
They have to give you, I will do it again.
I
They
know.
have to give you the adjusted sales price for all 3 of them. They have to tell you what percentage of the value each one represents.
But
You do 3 multiplications and add them up.
that's not my question. My question is that they're not, it's not always these percentages.
Are you
but
asking
they
that for
always
the,
add
are you
up.
asking that for the test or for real life?
Yeah, because
I asked you a question. Test or real life?
not for the test, no.
Okay, discussion is now over. Now ask your question.
They always add up to 100%, but they don't always have to be 20, 30, and 50.
Right.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, that's my question.
And what would be the basis for that? The opinion of the appraiser. That, like I said, that's why I don't think you're gonna see, because, you know, you could argue that. But does everybody understand that if you get a question like that on the test, they have to tell you the adjusted prices. They have to tell you what percentage of the final value each one of them represents. So you basically have 3 multiplications and add those 3 answers up. It's a real hard problem. Okay. Next. All right, don't turn in pages, no notes. We'll come back into it with them in just a little. In the cost appreciation approach, what's the value of the building based on?
What you just.
What'd you pay for it?
Based on the land.
The land value is based on the land, I'm talking about the building.
Is it a specific part of the building?
Yesterday, we went over the cost increase, material.
Based on the structure.
Replacement.
What are the 2 factors that they use to come up with the estimated value of the building? What? Cost and depreciation. Thank you. And what do you do with the cost? Wait a minute. I'm sorry, just another math question. What's that little symbol using me between two terms?
Subtract.
Okay, so in the cost appreciation approach, how do you find the value of the building? Thank you, cost minus depreciation. So there has to be methods that are used to calculate the cost, the current cost of the building. Would this method, so far, would this method be better on older buildings or newer ones?
New ones are older.
Older.
Oh, so it would be easier to get the materials from 40 years ago than it
Well, I
was
didn't
today.
say-
For example, Becky cypress. You ever seen that in a house?
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
very
It's a protected species. You can't buy it here. You have to buy it from somewhere else in the world and have it shipped here.
So a new building, yeah. Brand new. No depreciation, plus minus zero.
What's the maximum value of the building in this method?
The cost.
The cost. Because if you come up with the cost and there is no depreciation, then the building's worth
The cost.
its current cost. If I find things that are not brand new or not up to date, those things would do what?
Appreciation.
Depreciate the building. Now, the land's infrastructure, you could use cost depreciation on it. You've been in the community long enough, they'll start digging it up the street to replace everything. The land itself, they would use comps. So they don't spend much time talking about that part of the process. Majority of the questions come from the first, I say 3 steps, they say 2. Now, obvious question is, how do we calculate the cost? Well, let's do this. Let's go to page 359. Let's start with a bracket. In the middle of the page where it says cost appreciation, to the bottom.
Cost approach.
Yeah, cost approach, down to the bottom of the page. The gray box is a start. On page 360, put a bracket around the whole page. On page 361, put a bracket around the whole page. On page 360, figure 16.2, where it says compared to square foot method, you'll notice that that formula starts out, it says estimating reproduction cost. And they've given you the 4 main parts of the house. What have they told you about each part of the house?
Square feet
The square feet
and the price
and the price.
per square foot.
So what would be the first thing you'd do in that problem?
Multiply.
Multiply each one of those to get the, and then you do what?
Add them up.
And then
Add them up. And that would be
The total reproduction cost.
your reproduction cost. Not the value of the building, just its reproduction cost. That as a start. Not the whole part, just down to the calculation of
Listen,
cost
so the
appreciation.
four main parts of the addition, the less total accrued.
No, that part is not part of the question.
Only
The
total
question
sales
is
are
just down to calculating the current reproduction cost. That's the end. They give you the square footage, they give you the cost per square foot, and they want to know the current reproduction cost. So you add up the 2 or 3 things they give you, or multiply 2 or 3 things they give you, and then add them up. Go find the answer and mark it. Because the most common way the appraiser calculates the reproduction cost is by the cost per square foot. They do have costing manuals that they can use. That's why you'll find that when they talk about calculating the reproduction cost, it'll always be this compared to square foot or cubic foot, which means I take the square footage and multiply by the cost per square foot. All right, let's back up, if you will, to page 359. We know that step 1 is to estimate the reproduction cost. But you'll notice in that paragraph, they talk about 2 different types of costs that should be highlighted. You've got reproduction costs and you've got replacement costs. So make sure you highlight basically the sentence, because the sentence gives you the definition of what it means. As an appraiser, would you use, I'm on 350, I'm sorry. As an appraiser, would you use reproduction cost or replacement cost?
Both, if you need to.
Well, we can,
I would say both.
You have to give me an answer, it's one or the other.
Replacement.
So I'm trying to find the value of a similar building.
Production cost.
So you're trying to find the value of a similar building, not the value of the existing building.
No.
Well, then you can't use replacement cost, because replacement cost means you put back a building, not the same building, but one that performs the same function.
So reproduction is the thing they use everything in. Place it out.
Do you see a problem with that? Well, I gave an example with the Becky Cypress. What's that gonna do to the cost factor?
Cost more.
Which means it's probably gonna distort value.
Expect your value.
Even though we know it would add more value to the property, there's also a cost factor of getting it to the property. So you understand why this method is typically used when the other methods don't work. like for example, if they wanted to estimate the value of a school building, the whole complex, what method would you use? I don't think you can use comparables. Don't think you can use income capitalization.
Use reproduction.
Cost depreciation would be about the only one that would work. But you see the problem, and the problem's gonna get worse. Wait till we get to the depreciation part. Because all this is doing is telling me the value of the building. I have to subtract the depreciation to get the, it's the cost of the building. But remember, the cost of the building is its maximum value. Because if it's a cost less depreciation, unless that depreciation is zero, then the building's gonna be worth less than its current cost.
It can't always be reproduced either,
And that would be duly noted in the appraisal.
Yep.
Again, Bobby explains why it's not usually the primary approach. Now, let's talk about this idea of the depreciation. It doesn't just come out of thin air. That starts at the bottom of 360 and runs through 361. You'll see it says step 2 is subtract accrued depreciation. What does the word accrued depreciation mean?
Yearly added up.
accumulated.
Accumulated, okay. In the second paragraph at the bottom of the page, it talks about curable and incurable. Does curable mean you can fix it?
Yes.
No, because incurable doesn't mean you can't. It has to go both directions or it's not right. How about this? The house is a 3-1. It will cost $3,000 to replace, to put in the new bathroom. But it'll add $7,000 worth of value. Was that curable or incurable?
Curable.
Curable, why? It added more value than cost to
Put it.
cure. Use the words. So curable, you understand, everybody understands that curable and incurable is not about fix it or not fix it. It's an economic answer. So that depreciation wouldn't count because it's curable. So it would have a different impact upon the value of the building. Something that's incurable means what?
It costs more to put in than you're gonna get out.
To fix the issue, it's gonna cost me more, which may ultimately determine that the best thing to do with the building is to find some dynamite. Now, this accrued depreciation has 3 categories. That is at the top of 361. That as a start. The 3 of those depreciations, which they call it accrued depreciation, are physical deterioration, functional obsolescence, and external obsolescence. Those 3 are at the top of 361. They have a start. All right, I'm gonna give you examples of one of those three. I want you to tell me which one it would be. Poor traffic pattern within the home.
Functional.
Functional. Termites. If they were external, they would be eating somebody else's house and not yours. External has to do with things external to the property that would affect its value. If the termites are external to the property, they're not affecting my property. It's only when they're on my property that they physically deteriorate. How about changes in market conditions? External. Two-lane street converted into a busy four-lane street. External. Because that's something outside of the property boundaries that affect the value of it. How about every house has a pool except yours? Functional.
Functional.
Physical.
For example, too few or something, or yeah.
How about poor electrical outlets?
Physical.
How about inadequate electrical system? Okay. Would that problem be curable or incurable?
That's incurable. It's incurable.
Which one is normally curable?
Something that you can fix. it doesn't-
Which one of those three is normally curable?
Physical,
Physical.
Physical. Which one is the hardest to cure?
external.
Because it's beyond the control of the owner. That's another type of question they will ask. In the paragraph below those three, it says land is not depreciated in the cost depreciation approach. That is a start.
Just that sentence or?
Yeah, just that sentence. If you even need to highlight the fact that land is not depreciable, you should be shot. You don't deserve the will at this point.
It's a little radical.
But just in case, I would.
Why is the flow traffic pattern considered functional?
Because it's inside, I said inside the
Oh,
home.
inside the home, okay.
If you're talking about a traffic pattern
On the street.
on the streets, that would be external.
Okay.
That should be reasonably easy, but you have to stop for a second and think, or you're gonna go the wrong direction with some of these. Like the traffic pattern. I gotta make sure I know which traffic pattern they're talking about before I answer it.
So they would need to say like on the street or something?
Yeah, they'd have to give you something to indicate where it is.
Okay.
Because they couldn't leave that part out, because then you could justifiably use either answer,
Yeah.
or both. All right. At the bottom of the page, it talks about age, life, method, and you will notice on line 35, they have a term called effective age. Is that chronological age or condition age? Example. You've got a 4-story office building sitting on 441, and you've got a 4-story office building sitting on A1A. They have the air conditioning units on the roof. They are both 10 years old. That's their chronological age. Which one would be older in regard to effective age in most cases.
A1A.
Because?
It's next to the water.
Because it's
The ocean.
salt.
Yeah.
Okay. That would be another factor that would come into play on coming up with the depreciation. Because they're not just looking at the present, they're also looking at the future. Because what may or may not happen in the future can have an impact upon today's value. Question on it? Okay. Not too difficult. All right. Put your pen, pencils, and highlighters down. Here it comes again. I have an investment for you. I have a friend who owns a bank, and he's offering an investment through his bank that will be generating $10,000 worth of annual interest at a rate of return of 10%. So if you invest X amount of dollars into this, you will get $10,000 of annual interest, which will represent a 10% return on your investment. What's the present value of that investment? Or let me ask you another way. How much money would you have to deposit tomorrow in order to get that $10,000, which represents 10% return on your investment? $100,000. So the present value of future income is $100,000. Because if I put $100,000 in the bank tomorrow, and they give me a 10% annual interest rate, I'll make $10,000 each year. And let's assume that they cut me a check every year for 10,000 bucks. Obviously, I'll have to pay taxes on all that bullshit, but forget that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, I have another question then. You've got a 8-unit apartment complex. It is currently generating $10,000 of annual net operating income. The cap rate on the property is 10%. How much would you be willing to pay for that structure to get that $10,000, which represents a 10% cap rate on your return? The answer is $100,000. Because if I bought that building for $100,000 and it generates me $10,000 of annual net income, I'm making 10% on my money. This is called income capitalization. Don't turn the page. In income capitalization, what are you going to use to find value?
Income.
Let me try this one more time. In income capitalization, what am I going to use to find value?
Income.
Income. And what am I going to do with it?
Capital.
Capitalize it. That's why they call it income capitalization. You're converting future income into present value. Converting present income into future income into present value means that if I invest $100,000 a day at 10%, I'll make $10,000 a year. Okay, I have to introduce you to someone.
Is Irv nice?
Sometimes.
Income over.
What's the I stand for? Income. What's the R stand for?
Ratio.
Rate of return. What's the V stand for?
Value?
Any other questions?
No.
Because we just did that. I just erased that formula.
Are we allowed to let that down?
No. Not allowed to write anything down. Yeah. Okay. In a three-component formula, they always have to give you two of the three answers for you to work the problem. So if they want to know the value, they have to give me the income and the rate. If they want to know the rate, they have to give me the income and the value. Now, you're not going to have to remember that. Is that okay with you?
Yes.
All you have to do is remember Irv. And do this. If you want to find the value, it's the income divided by the rate. If you want to find the rate, it's the income divided by the value. You screw either one of those up and you should fail. And don't tell me you don't understand it, because we just did it over here. It's the same difference as putting your money in the bank and letting it accrue. Except it's an investment property instead of the bank. Still have operating costs. Now, in an income-producing property, which I think probably would be most appropriate here, what's most of the income based on?
Right.
Rent. Oh, shocker. Do you have expenses that you will incur with that building? Minus, not counting mortgage payment.
Yes.
Yes.
And they would probably come maybe operating expenses?
Yeah.
Yes. Mhm.
Okay. So, let me see. That stands for potential gross income. In order for it to reach its potential, it would have to be 100% occupied with no collection loss. Now, that should make sense, people. Because I can't reach my potential if I'm not fully rented at market rent. But that's why this word is potential. But it has certain parameters. Now, we have a problem. It may not reach either one of those. This is called vacancy and collection losses. It's usually a percent of PGI, like 5% or 10%. So you would have to subtract the effect of any vacancy and collection losses. Now, in an apartment building, may there be additional income above the rent?
Yeah.
Like
Laundry,
laundry.
parking. Stuff.
Extra parking spaces that you have to pay for. Okay, so that means there may be some other income that may be generated there. Not the majority of your income, but some extra. Should that be put should that, extra income, should that be put up here between PGI and vacancy, or should it be here?
After.
Why below?
I-
Because the vacancy and collection laws would have already affected
Right.
the income generated from those. If half the people are gone, the washing machines and dryers aren't gonna get used as much.
Right.
So here I would add the other income. Now, this is known as effective gross income. How would you define effective gross income? I didn't ask for a formula, I asked for a definition.
Net income before expenses.
Net
Well,
income before your expenses doesn't make any
There'd be
sense.
another net after that. Gross income before.
Is it
Can you say that again?
the realistic income before expenses?
Okay.
Or is it the actual?
Actual.
No, it's the amount.
Assuming my numbers are correct, it would be
Right,
actual. But it would definitely be more realistic as to the number I'm gonna see here than the number I'm gonna see there. So, once you have your gross income, what do you take away from it?
Operating expenses.
Now, don't sit here and tell me you don't know the answer. I'll have you take your checkbook out. And I will show your gross income for the month. I'll see what your check was. Then I'll see that after you paid the 48 bills, everything's red. That's why you understand that. You haven't seen it in black. Never mind. But you do this. You just,
Yeah.
it's not an income producing property, it's your checkbook. And then that would equal net income. There are three types of effective gross income, of operating expenses. There's fixed, variable, and reserve for replacement. I told you to sit back and relax, I'll get to the notes in a minute. No, thanks, I don't. There are three types of operating expenses: fixed, variable, and reserved for replacement. What does fixed mean? They're not affected by the operation of the building. Because your insurance is going to be the same, the taxes are going to be the same, even if you're not doing well financially with it. The variable expenses are just that. Expenses that, depending on the operational level, will go up and, which is the majority of your operating expenses. Reserved for replacement, monies you set aside each year to do what in the future?
Fix things.
Fix things? Replace things. It's not called reserve for fix. It's called reserve for replacement. So that 5 years from now, when I have to put a $50,000 roof on, I put $5,000 away in reserve, so that when I hit that point, your associations do it. They take part of your association fees, dump it in a reserve. Which one of the operating expenses would be your mortgage payment?
It's not.
Well, there's only two fixed expenses, and that's taxes and insurance. So that kind of blows that idea.
That's debt service. Mortgage.
What is which operating expense is the mortgage payment?
It isn't.
Is it an operating expense or an ownership expense? Because you don't have to pay your mortgage payment for the building to operate. It will operate just fine without that. It'll just be operated by somebody else. So that's where they try to pull the wool over your eyes here. Try to suck you into using your debt service, which is annual mortgage payment. Understand, this is all annual stuff. Yes, it can be converted to monthly, but it is done on an annual basis. Yes.
If it's a, okay, so say the question, and the answers, there's 4. Is there
So,
none
whoa. I don't understand what you're asking.
Sorry, I said this back. If there's a question,
Just give me the question.
okay. The difference, what you just asked, I've been asked to repeat the question, but for your answer, A, B, C, and D, would there be a none above?
There's always going to be a none above in
Okay.
anything.
That's all I wanted.
Any question where you deal with a list of stuff, you can have a none above.
So in this scenario.
They don't ask a lot of none aboves. By the way, I haven't told you this. When you get a question with answers and you have absolutely no clue what you're talking about, and D is all the above, mark all the above. Now, I didn't say mark all the above every time it comes up. I said if you don't have a clue what to answer and all the above is a choice, mark it. Why? I can't tell you, or I'd have to shoot. Because then it would be your license, my license, or you. So figure that out.
You're going down.
Then I would lose my license and this is kind of a no-win situation. Now, I have a question, and then we'll take a break here. And then I'll get some markers. I can see that.
I knew it was.
Back to Earth.
Everybody, hey, that's so good.
Which one of those 3 components is this? All of them. What's that?
Income.
And what's this?
Income.
Take a wild guess. They have to hand you the capitalization rate on a silver platter, 8%, 10%, 11%. They have to tell me the income, but they may make me find it. Because you may get a question where they tell you the potential gross income, the vacancy, the additional incomes, the operating expenses to get the net income. And then they'll say, if the capitalization rate is 10%, what would be the present value of this building? Well, then I take the net income and divide it by the 10%, and that would give me the present value of that structure, based upon its future income. Okay, let's take a break, come back and we'll look at the notes and see if you have any questions.
Yeah, that's the vacancy.
That's 9 days, 1 day, but it would be,
Yeah,
Yeah, it is.
but if that's Monday,
He told,
Oh, yeah, I was actually.
I wrote it down, and I liked his, very, almost very correct.
I don't know how.
I wrote that, first page, first typewritten paragraph. I wrote the test.
Yeah, well, I mean,
20
it's
seconds.
working out for a while.
And then I looked this up and I said,
it would be the
I'm gonna ask him.
I think you said, you might have said you wanted to take state exam.
Yeah, that's exactly what that would be.
I think that's
That's what
good.
it was?
Yeah, I think
If the
that's.
next day
Just
came
came
on,
out
you
of
know,
I have to study it.
Oh, that's why you were.
I think that's why I go back to see what I got wrong and then study that for the state exam.
It's pretty.
That's my thought.
Yeah, it's gonna be in the road.
Yeah, that's real, I don't know how they do that.
I mean, a lot of them, I think.
You said that it's not.
Well, a lot of it is, there's a lot of factors involved. There's what we call upplacement. There's several places. We have like the mask. Basically placing the tone like the forward, backwards, and the hot spot is right here in your mouth. And then the avoid valve, like the goal is to have like a lot of resonance. And then you want a constant air support. Then you have vibrato, which makes it sound. So there's a lot of things. And over time, your voice matures. Someone like that. I don't know, I have to ask one of my vocal coaches. Yeah. You have people that.
Dude,
I don't know.
no, who's that back? Oh, no, I can't.
Does it sound like when she talks? It's a tool, it's like,
I bet she's probably has the same.
oh, yeah, so she's been singing, I think now she's 11.
Yeah, well, she's having vocal lessons, especially classical training is where she's putting her vowels at, and like I said, the placement of the tone is gonna have a lot to do with how mature she sounds.
I got a lot had to do with like,
The diaphragm, well, yeah, we have what we call a diaphragm, which is what allows you to breathe in and out. That is a factor. But the fact someone can control it, that is very rare. Or do you want to get the notes that you missed? I'm not sure where you left off that. Oh yeah, you didn't have this sales comparison approach. We had just talked about different approaches. And then is
Documentation. Here it is.
yeah, I think we started. So we spent a lot of time on the board.
Oh, excuse me.
yeah,
Or is it not so much?
well, it is, just his father.
Oh yeah. How's he doing?
I mean, they discharged him.
Yeah.
It's gonna be, he's going through
Steph, what was that?
Yeah.
Or
I'm waiting on my apology. At least I attempted. I did.
check the email. Check the email again.
See, I don't look at it. I don't even have no.
Unfortunately, that happens. Always when I sleep.
But you see the proof that
Yeah,
I kept my word. That's not my
I just
fault.
only
If
have
they
the
are
glasses.
See what I wrote?
Yeah, well, I can show you on the diagram on this page.
See what happened.
Oh, one of them.
These are
You want
factors
one of these?
that you would
No,
use
I'm
when
good.
you're doing.
Why you selling?
No, it's not order you. By the time you get here, we probably won't be in class no more.
Nah, I'm good.
You said apologies. Really?
They just, comparison.
My word is all I had, and I kept my word.
Listen, I said the intent was what mattered, so I'm good. Yeah, but the file must have been too big for your email. They were pictures?
Why it showed that it was finished versus.
So, say for example, and he.
I'm telling you. So you know I don't lie. I told you.
I mean, you know, I don't know. You seen that I sent a million of them.
That's why I knew there was some misunderstanding.
So you're.
I'm glad that was good for you to see. I kept my
And in order
word.
for.
I was glad it was there for you to see, because you'd have swear I'd have got him a name.
I'm like, because I purposely went back to make sure you got it. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe he's busy, so I'm not going to worry about him not saying thank you.
I'll reply instantly.
And I saw the number, and I'm like, nah, I don't want to text that number because I don't know. So I just left it alone. I was
Well,
going to say it's
comparable
it.
is just
He
a
got
property, it's a
Okay.
property that is comparable to it that you're trying to sell it.
Did
So
you
say,
get
for example,
everything
a
out
house,
of her?
You wanna,
No.
Yeah, I was here like an hour early. She was here like right after me, like 40 minutes.
And so, like,
they get extra.
Now I gotta go back and read it. It's something else.
exactly, but it depends, like,
Oh my
what the
God.
dynamics are. It's like, one of
This
that
is the part
exercise
that
we did on the board was, he said, okay, so you have
like where I
comparable
shut
one.
down some of
Which
these
has,
kind of focus pills or something.
Don't shut down.
I'm trying not to. I'm
three
trying to
bedrooms,
think
2 baths,
positive.
had a
about
pool,
what they read
2-car
out.
garage.
Or just get everything else.
Yeah, and then the new one, which was the subject, the one that I
Don't shut down.
the
Yeah, I got a cram course next week. I signed up for a cram course next week, next Saturday, on my end.
Oh, no, comparable is
So I
just,
made those 2 days on
it's
my.
another.
I ain't really studying, so.
I didn't know.
Yeah, no, comparable.
Like a whole day.
Basically what's happening is they're returning
Oh, I know.
What the pay for that?
3 properties to yours. It's not, this isn't 3 different scenarios, it's like 3 properties.
So
Next
this
weekend,
is
Saturday.
one that's
It's
sold in the
like 10
neighborhood.
minutes from my house.
Is this your property, number
Yeah,
two?
all the
Or-
No, these are all different properties.
Okay.
Most of
1,
them.
2, and 3 are all different properties.
Gold has them.
So these are all their.
No, it's just a cram. You
Yeah,
don't
well,
really
the
remember.
things, like.
I got a buddy, he took it to go
square
for
footage,
all
so they're
7
like
days.
wide and
They
nasty.
took the test, and
So-
you don't remember nothing. It was just,
Right,
Yeah, and he used a really good diagram that helped make sense of it.
because it was a cram.
So you gotta get it all in.
Yeah, it's just a cram.
House 3.
And it's not even, it just, you just kind of recall.
Is the same as the
Okay, did I see
subject,
this?
right?
I think I remember
In
this.
terms of the market value for
And
it.
see, my thing is like,
But,
I used to be really good with remembering stuff, with the definitions, but it's like when it comes to test taking,
It's around the
hey,
same price.
That's-
it's like I
Yeah.
know
See, I'm
stuff.
great when it comes to test taking.
that
I've always
is-
been a poor test taker.
Square
That's
footage.
not only, like, I can do the work, no problem, but you ask me to take a test,
I just gotta be able to recall some of it,
So,
and
you have-
I'll get it right.
like, I can be looking at the answer, like, my problem is, like, I can do the circle right
Most,
now.
most women are like that.
And
Because all my girls are like that. My wife is like that. They all,
there's something about it, like, I can do it, but it's just like, when it's
I
time
think
to
this
take that
wanted
test.
to do so well, you put that pressure on yourself.
So this time I'm trying to.
You just have to-
I think
That's what I do. So.
and it's like then I second guess myself and I go back and just start marking other crap. And now you just screwed yourself up.
Full of that.
It's a woman's thing.
because you wanted to make
Most guys
adjustments.
are just, let's see what happens.
Have the subject.
Well, we'll see. Hopefully this is my last one.
It don't matter when you get it.
That.
As long as you.
This cat, you didn't make runs or you felt one tip.
That's how it was when I will.
That's pressure.
The night, yeah.
Every week you're like,
So you have
over pads, over
where
pads.
That's what I heard about
This is
the,
gonna give us like a.
Yeah,
Oh, and this is.
But I gave up.
Not trigger.
They, when I say,
Well,
like,
they would
I
give you
went
this.
to my last year, I lost my
Remember
last
the
year.
3 things that
I
we
guess
talked
they
about?
did their, interview, you know, how they call them, do all that background checking or whatever.
Things that didn't.
They fired me.
How the bedroom would be
Watch the
cool.
first, like, it's like,
And the cost was, so,
You ever heard of the company Citrus?
It's
Right,
$5
Power Line,
piece.
now?
Yeah.
I was looking at it.
Yeah, it's like a mental health place, right?
No, it's the
Cit-
IT
Oh,
company.
citrus.
It's right
Citrus, not citrus.
well, yeah. And so then
I
you started here, because if you start with, basically you want to start with the price first before you do the other things. Before you work on the fitness, you want to work on the market.
A lot of those things are subjective.
And it was like,
So you see this part says 10% annual interest, but it's on 6 months ago. So it's not gonna be the full annual, that's only half of that. So what we do is you have a hundred,
ma'am, I was 16.
you add
I gave you
5,000.
the whole scenario.
You're trying to level it out. That's the purpose of, no, not 50. It's 10%, like 10% of 100,000.
So, and I thought
Cause I got buddies, not buddies, but guys when I was younger.
And then, let's see, there's less bedrooms on this one. And so this, well, you need to add this one to match up to this. So you're gonna add another 5. This one has less bedrooms.
I didn't even say it to him, like, I need you to hear what I got to say.
You get called from my uncle, you haven't heard from him in a while.
So you're gonna
It
subtract
cracks me up.
your bathroom, 2,000.
No.
What I
Yep.
Well, this is just an
Set
example,
up.
like,
It takes so much, and if
this is more of like a test questions.
that's the
Maybe about what?
only
week?
Yeah.
just calling in.
Right.
This
And
is
see-
just what the cost was in the question. So like.
My
Because
bad.
you know, so,
Yeah.
I respond back and tell them
So you got 108.
all the things that keep me.
Now,
No,
this
I
has no
don't.
pool, this one has a pool. So you're going to have
In
to
high school,
Yep, so minus 12.
but
baby girl, her second year of college, you know, grad school, so
I
you
mean,
can put it
I
out there in
tried.
general,
It
like
was
the
like-
master. Now you fully understand, like, oh, yeah, go ask him. But if you want to buy a house, I'm in your class. So,
Yeah,
make sure you call me back.
She's I don't know.
Oh, what did you get?
I mean, I can do this.
And so that's the total
She's
adjustment
grown.
of this
She can go
house.
like this.
So if you say, look at this, you see the market conditions, you're kind of taking in the interest that occurred for 6 months.
That's where I was trying to know
That's
That's what I was just doing. For the meantime,
square footage, so you see that it's minus. That means that it was had more square footage in this house and in the second.
but while she's
Less,
school,
so they count.
because of
See what's going on here? Well, you see that it added.
I got things that I
You're trying to, yeah,
Oh,
here,
good.
which is a bit different, they're trying to find.
I'm good, you ain't gotta do all that work.
You know,
That's all good, man, it's all good.
I started a few of them.
Yeah, and then what this is, they would
We gotta come right back.
put that on the test that we do this
But I
This,
started a pretty good.
terrible one times this percentage right here. So is the price, the adjustment here, which is 700.
Yeah.
Yes.
then, it's just.
No, this is adjusted sale price right here. Comparable. And then this is the adjusted sale price. And this right here.
No, but that's just.
This is the kind of.
The question.
What is?
But nursing is not made.
Historical districts everywhere. What is the?
Oh, the house that.
That's a sales negotiation. Yeah.
My thing is that like, I mean,
Yeah.
what I do, I just, like they have their own.
Where you guys?
In the front, yeah, in the front. Now, I got told off this, lady. Like, man, okay, you know, I'm not gonna
Cost center.
you don't think you are your mother when she was a child. I don't see you at your job. Like, don't have my mama like that.
Our neighbor.
Because all the insurance marble had to be
Last
locked
year
up.
he moved away. Oh, okay. Black
My,
but our neighbor was Kevin.
he's
Oh, okay.
King of Queens.
Oh, yeah, my wife.
But
And that's what I
all of
would
these
do.
were
Until he
had
married
to
out
be
well, he started to
Just go through the bed.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Start this and I'll start that.
And I've never been.
Leave that.
We're rich.
That was
I said, I'm not sure why.
I tell you.
Don't tell me why.
Yes.
I'm giving it.
Don't ask him.
No.
Close to borderline at the airport too.
I'm not giving you a headache, but I might give you stress.
No. No stress.
Okay, let's take a look at the notes for income capitalization on 360. Yes, if you put a bracket from lines 1 through 24,
I'm sorry, what page is this on?
363.
363, starting with line 1,
Thank
where it
you.
says income growth. The rest of that page and the first 4 lines, well, actually, the first 4 lines, including the gray box.
On the next one.
Yeah. The top of 364. Basically, if you look at 363 from line 1 to 24, everybody look at the board, that is that.
Say that one more time.
This right here is 363.
Oh,
Look at it. Just take all the fluff out. Because a lot of times, they may not ask you to work a math problem. They may give you, may ask, which of the following is the formula to calculate effective gross income? Or which of the following is the formula to calculate net operating income? And they could as simply give you the effective gross income and the operating expenses. So these type of things, and I've noticed less than that over the years, that they're getting away from just asking you a math problem to ask you a theory question. Because I think, you know, in my mind, I don't need to see you to work the problem. I want to see you be able to explain it. That's what it should be. Because you've got machines that can do all the calculations you need. But garbage in can shoot garbage out. I don't know how fancy a machine you got.
You can't make a fancy machine until it's test anyway, right? All you need is a simple calculator.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Did I tell you about my student with the Mickey Mouse
Oh, you didn't.
magic
Did it speak?
calculator? No. First night of FREC1, I said to everybody, you know, make sure you get a highlighter and a calculator, and the calculator only needs to multiply, divide, add, and subtract. And he comes in with his 3-year-old's calculator, with Mickey ears. And he used it through the whole class and passed. A year later, because then it was only a year you had to wait because you wanted to get his driver's license, he comes back and he's got the Mickey Mouse calculator.
Good luck, Sean.
That's exactly what he said.
He's gonna do that.
And he says, and then the 45-hour course, every class he came to after that, he had his Mickey Mouse calculator. That poor kid, you might need therapy. Well, you know, he wasn't old enough at that point to know the difference, but. But like I said, you know, you do sometimes get math problems, but more often it's just looking to see if you know what's what. At the bottom of the page, because it also carries to the top, it talks about the net operating income, and it talks about the 3 different types. And you'll see that they give you examples of each one. That's at the very bottom of page 363. And lines 1 through 4. On page 364, lines 5 through 9. I'm sorry, 5 through 14.
Bracket?
Right. All stuff we talked about, but there's the notes. Where's the attendance sheet? Okay. Everybody signed?
No, I haven't.
No, I haven't signed yet. Anybody else? First of all, Jenny, I'm going to
those two paragraphs are also sources of questions. It's kind of the stuff that doesn't go with it type of thing. It's good to be conscious of the things that aren't considered operating expenses. So when you get those questions, which of the following are, which of the following are not, you recognize them. Let's go to page 368. On 368, it says in the middle of the page, gross rent multiplier. I would like for you to highlight lines 1 through 6. And then I'd like you to go to the next page. And on line 16 where it says gross income multiplier, highlight that paragraph. And the last sentence of that paragraph, lines 19 and 20, the start. Obviously, this method would be used on properties that were generating income. Not a very accurate, but used for what they call ballpark figures. Now, to give you an illustration. By the way, what's the difference between gross rent and gross income multiplier?
One's up for rent, one's up for income.
One's monthly and one's annual. The term rent would be a monthly term or an annual term? And the term income? Annual. Okay. That matches up, and they play around with that too. If I said to you, the typical home that sells in this marketplace for rental purposes averages about $100,000 and makes about $600 a month in rent. If that's the average, what's the gross rent multiplier for that community? 600. So, based upon that information, knowing that the typical home sold for $100,000 and rented for approximately $600 a month, you told me that would represent a gross rent multiplier of 600. What does that mean?
The monthly income, I mean, the monthly rent's not gonna add up to $100 more.
You don't have to do any of this. It says gross rent multiplier, not net rent multiplier. It means that properties in that community that are for rent typically rent for 100 times, I'm sorry, rent, yeah, 100 times what they'll rent for each month. So you've got something that'll rent for $700 a month. What's it worth? You told me the multiplier was 100. And I said, I have another home in this community that rents for would rent for $600, $700 a month. What's its present value? 700. Because what do you do with a multiplier?
You multiply.
Oh, you divide by a multiplier.
No,
You just told me I divided. I didn't ask about getting it.
Okay,
You
well,
didn't answer the question.
I didn't listen to the whole.
I know. Now you know why you have the headache. Now,
My mouth shut.
here's something else that'll help. Monthly multipliers are big numbers. Annual multipliers are small numbers, like 7, 8, 10. Because when you crank it to annual income, then that number isn't as big. But it creates a ballpark figure. If in my mind as an investor, I'm seeing that the kind of properties where I can make some money on are typically, I should not be paying more than 100 times what they'll rent for each month. Just as a ballpark figure, before I even look at any numbers. And if that doesn't match up, then the odds are when I look at the numbers, it's not going to match up either. But again, it's not income capitalization. It is a form of capitalization, but it's not income capitalization. Now, the type of questions they ask, again, are usually not arithmetic problems. The thing that the star for you on this is, when they talk about annual income, which multiplier are they talking about? Gross income multiplier. If they're talking about monthly rent? GRM. GRM, okay. So then gross income multiplier usually deals with annual income. And right?
Yeah.
And gross rent multiplier normally deals with rent, which is usually monthly. That was easy enough. Since you're having so much fun with this chapter, it's over. Let's go to 376. Now, all you people who wanted to play investor for the last umpteen weeks, and I never would let you, we're here. Look at the heading. Real estate investments and business opportunities brokerage. That should make a lot of you real happy. On page 376 and 377, you have a whole bunch of terms. Let's go brackets starting with line 14 on page 376. To the bottom of the page. And then on page 377, lines 1 through 31. The one that has a star is on 376, and it's lines 30 and 31. Whose money is that? Who's you? Oh, okay. I don't know who you is. Must be a very popular person, I hear it all the time. You haven't got long to get used to speaking the language before you're thrust out in the middle of the people who don't know what they're doing.
So the answer would be investor.
Answer would be owner's money.
Owner.
I don't know where I got that from. Well, actually, where I got that from is none of your business. Right, you know.
Maybe you help right now?
Equity. Owner's money. Now, a lot of these terms, I don't think really an issue. A few of them I want to touch on. On line 21, the term cash flow. I have a question. Where's that money flowing?
Cash.
Where is it flowing?
Where is it for?
To the
Into
owner.
your pocket.
Thank you, into your pocket, and who's you? Again, it's you person.
Owner or investor?
The owner investor.
Would you like to see that? Your debt service, which is your mortgage payment, gives you before tax cash flow. And what would it be called after taxes?
After tax.
After tax cash flow. See, I always remembered when I got to the flow word, it's flowing in my pocket. Hopefully, after all this shit above is paid, there is something flowing in my pocket. But I may not be able to keep it because I got this stupid uncle who was always looking for money. And you got a depreciation factor that comes into play there, and the reserve for replacement has to be put back into the taxable income because you showed it as an expense, but you didn't spend it. So you have to pay taxes on the reserves. But you only have to pay it once on that money. Then that money sits there forever, there'll be no more taxation on it. It's just what you pull out each, or you, not pull out, but put in there each. Because you actually lied when you said that the reserves are operating expenses. Because they're not paying anything. I guess it's because of the fact that it's being put away for future expenditures, large expenditures.
Is that DS or OS?
D, as in debt. Are you aware that most investors are drug addicts? No, I didn't say drug dealers. There's a difference. Well, maybe not. Yeah, they're hooked on opium. Other people's money.
There you go.
It's called leverage. It's on line 33. It means I'm gonna, let me ask you this question. If you wanted to buy an investment property, how much of a loan would you want the bank to give you? How much closing costs would you be willing to pay?
Zero.
Okay. The operating expenses, how much of that do you want to pay for? None.
None.
Okay. How about your mortgage payment? Do you want to pay that?
No.
Okay. So that means you want all the money.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. Unfortunately, that's probably not going to happen. Well, it could for a short period of time. And then they put you in jail. Or you go to another country or universe. All you're going to do is go to fingers. Don't be alarmed. Look at the topography up there. Look at the colors. And then what you see about Morris, I mean, it's just what was started. First time I ever was out there where I flew over that area was back in 2011. And it was the weirdest thing because we had to lay over in Phoenix. And coming into Phoenix, it's like, the hell are we?
Yeah.
It's like,
Brown, white.
totally different. I mean, you look at this country, it's fascinating. Look at the topography, the different types of topography in this country. I mean, it's like where we live here, go over to Louisiana, go back into Virginia, where I'm from, New England, the lakes, Great Lakes. He's got so many different, wow. Do you know how we got Florida?
How did that go?
Yeah.
He told us a story, and then we were supposed to learn history.
Yeah. We got it from King Ferdinand of Spain. We bought it for, I think like $8 million. I saw that somewhere or something. Now the question is, where did King Ferdinand get it? From the Indians. That was called conquering.
Yeah.
I love, you use the words that not stealing, not mastering.
But the Seminole is still not surrendered, I believe.
I'm sorry?
The Seminole have not surrendered still.
No. Well, what happened with them is they went into the Everglades and nobody wanted to go in after them.
And what is it called, they get royalties, or what is it called when they're,
Well, each member of the tribe gets X amount of dollars a month.
Only if you go on the roll.
Yeah.
You have to submit to the fact that you are considered a subjected individual, and you go on the roll and receive a documentation and a number. If you fail to do that, or do not do that, then you don't receive that stipend. Therefore, the majority of them, most Native Americans, don't subscribe to that mentality, because it means that you have been conquered and subjugated.
Well, you got that, also you have that in Alaska,
my husband, $20.
where people get X amount of dollars if they're there all year. I learned that on Discovery Channel.
Is that 365 days, or is it?
I forgot, they said, I don't remember if it's,
But how much?
and I don't think it has to be the whole year, but it has to be a certain percentage. And I don't remember what the number was. That term leverage is on line 33. On page 377, on line 9, you have the term basis. In plain English, what's basis?
Initial cost?
It's a purchase price. But when the IRS looks at it, any certain expenses that you incur to purchase it are deductible, and improvements that you make are deductible. So is depreciation, but there's a problem with depreciation. You have to recapture it upon the sale of the property. So depreciation does not eliminate taxation. It only postpones it.
So just during the term of your ownership, but once you sell it, then you then have to pay it.
Yeah. All right. let's go to page 378, bottom of the page. Where it says real estate as an investment. That's line 20 on 378. Put a bracket the rest of the way. And on 378, 9, excuse me, lines 1 through 18. And if you want to see the Reader's Digest version of what you just put back around, that's the top of 379. Comparing the advantages and to the disadvantages of real estate ownership. What in the world does illiquidity mean?
Not
You
liquid.
can't sue.
Not easily.
You can't cash
Can't
in.
liquidate easily.
Well, then what term means I can cash out quickly? Well, no, let me ask this question. With the illiquidity, does that mean I can't get the money out quickly? Or does it mean I can't get the money out quickly without losing principal? I mean, a lot of the investments you have out there, you get it out early, but you pay a penalty. So, it's not a question, illiquidity doesn't mean I can't get it out necessarily. It means I can't get it out without losing some principal.
A penalty, right?
Hmm?
It's a penalty, right?
Yeah. Whereas liquidity, which is on the other side, says you can get it out quick. But we know with real estate, it does not have high liquidity. Savings account,
Pretty liquid.
Like Roth IRA.
at the bottom of page 179,
379?
yes,
All right.
we just did 78, top 79. Bottom of 79, it says assessment of risk. Starting with line 19. And let's roll on the next page to line 20. They talk about the different types of risk. Most of them are at the top of 380. But at the bottom of 379, it talks about business risk. As a business person, do I try to project what I think my expenses will be for the year? Do I try to project what my income will be for the year? I'm hoping that if I show it being more income than out, I hope I'm right. But there is always that risk that what we estimate doesn't turn out to be what actually happens. That's business risk. The second one is financial risk. This ties in somewhat to business risk, but this is more about the financial ability to deal with the risks that come along. In other words, if I can't pay my mortgage payment from the normal source, do I have any place else I can go to before I default? The next one is purchasing power risk. If you're ever asked a question about purchasing power risk, go find an answer with the word inflation in it and mark that answer. The next one always got me, interest rate risk. I got a fixed rate. Where's the risk? Here's where the risk is. I've got a fixed rate at 7% with a 6-month penalty if I withdraw, if I refinance. But the going rate in the marketplace is 3.5. As an investor, I'm losing money. An investor views that as they're using money, losing money. Why? Because if they can get that money out, they can put it someplace where it's not cost them as much, which leaves more money in their pocket. Because is there always a risk? And then of course, especially if it's an adjustable rate, the risk factor goes up even more. On page 381, this little section on business brokerage, I want to highlight lines 7 through 10. It's not a star, but it's a popular question when they're comparing regular real estate to business brokers. Now, you understand that a business broker does not have a business broker license. They have what? They have a real estate license. Saying I'm a business broker just tells you what my specialty is and what my area of concentration is. It's like being a residential broker. At the bottom of the page, a term that we've seen before, but just to point it out, on those differences from real estate, number 2 on line 23, where they talk about that going concern value. That's a term that would be associated with businesses, not regular real estate. I think a going concern sounds like to me that it should be profitable, or it would be a gone concern. But the idea there is that it is profitable. Now, obviously, businesses have to be, their value has to be estimated. And obviously, there are appraisers who specialize in appraising businesses. On 383, it talks about the different types of methods that they use to estimate the value of a business. Let's do this. Highlight line 6, which says valuation of businesses. Highlight lines 7 and 8, which is right below it. And then highlight 9, where it says comparable sales approach analysis. 13 that says cost approach. 14 that says income analysis. And 15 which says
20 and 26. 20 and 26.
So I was on page 83, lines 9, 13, 20, 26. Which one of those 3 would be unique to a business? Liquidation.
Liquidation.
Yes. You may want to make a note of that. Yeah.
Would that be a star then?
That would be a star, yes, ma'am.
Is it only 3 out of 4 bullets?
No, I had you highlight all of them, but the note was about the last one. Okay. I don't feel like doing chapter 18. The other book is supposed to be there. Again, with your other book, where it says exam manual, now's the time to start looking at those questions. I told you about the section in the front of the book where it talks about test taking techniques. But understand, until you pass the class test, stars are the most important things. But now's the time to start working on those questions in that book. Knowing that when we get close to the 11th hour, I need to focus down on the stars. Now, Monday, we will finish whenever I don't finish tonight. And the reason I'm not starting chapter 18 is it would take a little longer than I got time left to go through because of the continuity of it. It's easier to do this other chapter first. So, let's see, what do we got, 4 more nights?
Well,
The
fourth night's
14th, the
exam.
16th, and 21st.
Well, that's still a night.
Monday, Wednesday,
And then-
Monday.
3 nights.
So,
First exam.
Monday, I will finish up whatever material we haven't finished.
Wednesday.
On Wednesday, we will review. On Wednesday, if I don't bring it up, you don't ask. Is that crystal
Yes.
clear? Because that night is to go over the stars. If it ain't a star, don't bring it up. However, the second you pass that class exam, those stars do not exist. They are more valuable than anything else, maybe even less. And the only reason I can give you the stars is because I have the exams. I have the answer key. I don't have either one of those things for the state exam. That's why I don't teach the class test. I try to teach the concepts to make it easier. Yeah, there's math problems, so yes, you need a calculator. And no, you cannot use your phone. You don't have to leave it home. On the night of the class test, I don't want any materials like scratch paper, textbooks in the room. Don't even bring them in the room.
You'll give us
Leave them in the
scratch
car.
paper? You'll give us paper?
So we don't cheat.
Yeah, so you don't cheat. Oh, by the way, let me tell you this now, and I'll tell you again. The night of the exam, if you go out that door before you're through,
You're done.
don't come back. I've had several situations where I was standing at the door waiting for them to come back from their car. Because the school was on the second floor. And the idiot sitting about 3 rows back in their car doing this. When the person walked in, I didn't let him go in the room. I was outside the door. I said, "You just go to your car?" "Yeah." I said, "You just failed." Because she decided my license was more important, her grade was more important than my license. Don't put me in that position. Quick fix. Now, all this stuff I'm doing now is because it's part of what the state requires before I give you the test. So, yeah, I never know if there's gonna be an investigator here. I've had one that I know of. This is the funniest thing. I'm teaching this class, I've probably only been teaching maybe 6 months. And one night, this person that I knew wasn't in class showed up in a 3-piece suit. He might as well had investigator written across his forehead.
Wow.
And he sat there the whole class, got up and left at the end of class.
You don't know all of it by now.
Too the test, too?
Well, but that was when I didn't know anything.
Right.
You have to understand that I was teaching a month after I got my license. Well, see, here's the deal. That book was half the size of this. And I knew what they had to know to pass the test. So if they brought up something that wasn't about the test, that I had no clue what the answer was, I would say that's not 1 point on the test. So if you don't mind, we can discuss that on break. Because on break, if I told them something was wrong, it would make a difference because they weren't going to fail the test.
Right.
Now I got the opposite problem. I can't shut my mouth long enough to get through. Are you kidding me? You have no idea how long I could stand here and talk about this stuff if I had the chance.
You're a busy man.
Why do you like that you?
I do like that. Sometimes I'd like to kill the people I'm doing it with, but yes.
We figured that out.
Present company exclusive.
Now, some people walked out to the bathroom.
Oh, well.
He said present.
Let's go to chapter 19, page 412.
I wasn't sure.
I did not.
We all did.
For those of you that didn't think I could get through, I told you not to count the pages. And I know some of you did, and you think, there's no way he's gonna get through 19.
So don't ask about what you think.
No, not least until Monday.
Okay, I was thinking about Wednesday though.
Wednesday, yeah, you can ask anything that has a star. Okay, what chapter? Anybody tell me the first city to have zoning ordinances? New York. That would kind of make sense if it be the Northeast. Why? Because the garment industry was moving in on the Fifth Avenue area, and they were conflicting land uses.
The garment?
Garment industry versus Fifth Avenue.
I thought you said garment.
So they have carbon in Fifth Avenue. And they talk a little about the history of planning and zoning. By the way, what happens first? Planning or zoning?
Yeah, planned it out, didn't put the work in. You just can't stop working and just decide, you know what, let's just put some plans together while we're in the middle of this.
He comes from Z.
Well, if you look at the heading of the chapter, it says planning and zoning. Planning, zoning, and environmental waste, hazard. So it looks like planning comes first. So how do they implement the plan?
Use zoning.
Use zoning. And like I heard somebody say, you have to have a plan before you can start working. That was the problem in the past. There was no plan. They just started building. I remember Boca del Mar area, Palmetto and Howard, John, depending on where you are. They actually shut down construction in that area at one point because of the fact they were building houses faster than they could put the infrastructure in. That brought this act they mentioned at the bottom of the page, the it's the Growth Policy Act. And all these acts they're talking about here came along in the 80s. So it really isn't that far in the past. Again, because if you look back in history, it wasn't until up in the 70s when things started going nuts all around here. There was building going on, but not like it was here. I remember when they first opened up Boca West.
There's nothing else.
If you were interested, you took a number. When they called that number, you have one or two options. You sit down and sign the contract, or you get up and leave. There were 4 or 5 associates there. They probably averaged $250,000 to $300,000 a year in income. Basically being order taken. A waiter or waitress did more work than they did. But it was phenomenal to see how it goes. And it's pretty much doing it right now. I mean, just look in this area here at the building that's going on here. Absolutely unbelievable. Somebody knows something? Not quite sure what it is. Well, go to Lines Road, head south. Keep going until you get to Lake Worth.
That's north.
There's an awful lot going on in that area. And a lot of it ain't farming anymore.
I live out there. It's everywhere. I said I live out there, it's everywhere.
Yep.
Residential.
And it's not necessarily a good thing.
Yeah, I agree. But it's a money thing.
Well, it's inflated. I think all the prices are inflated anyway.
Of course.
People are gonna get into trouble buying them like they did 10 years ago.
That's okay. You know what? Doesn't matter whether the market's good or bad. Somebody out there needs to sell a house, or somebody out there needs to buy one. All I gotta do is get in the way. So you better start building your network, and you better start learning your marketplace. If you live out there, there shouldn't be anything about West Boca, west of the Turnpike, you can't tell me about. Because if that's where you plan on staying, that, you know, less driving I have to do, the better. And you know what, there's plenty of properties out there with big price tags on them, so. And those are the ones that, it'll take you forever to sell. The $200,000 and $300,000 homes take less time to sell. Why? There's more buyers.
Do you know what this one is?
More buyers that can afford a $300,000 or $400,000 house than somebody can afford $1 million or a $2 million house.
Do you know what that one?
Although here, it's phenomenal the number of people that can.
Do you know what the nickname Flintmore is?
$1 million road?
It's all the states.
Yep. They're just getting started. So plenty of road, but a lot of it north. My only concern is that they decide to change everything west of the Turnpike to west of Boca Raton. They have thought about that and make it its own city. If that comes about, I'm gone.
Like Abaco with it? Like-
Why? Do you know how valuable a Boca Raton address is?
Yeah, but
West Boca Raton,
No.
that's like West Palm Beach versus Palm Beach. It's an one little word, west, can put a damper on the value of your property.
So why would they want to do that? So why would they want to change it to west?
Why?
Yeah.
Increase the tax basis. Plus, you know, the builders right now are doing a good job of that without doing anything else.
Schools also are getting
Yeah, and we're back to the same problem with the schools. They can't build them fast enough. they put in those modules and stuff, and kids are all, it's overcrowded before you can turn around.
Don't move.
Don't move?
You have something on your shoulder.
Okay.
Did you not see it? Or fly or whatever?
You want it? It's a bee.
A bee?
Notice you can follow directions.
No, he said stay still. He's like, all right.
He said stay still. Yes, should I have reached around and seen what it was on the shoulder?
We got his bee on it.
Very good vision, I'll tell you that. Wow.
I owe you one. On page 412, in that section that talks about Florida's growth policy and these different acts that came along, it's because of what they call the concurrency provision. As I said, a lot of the infrastructure that has to be there to support the population wasn't there. And they literally stopped them from building. And I remember 3 or 4 times the Boca Del Mar area, they shut them down, wouldn't let them build. Because of the infrastructure that has to be there. So now, but that's why all of a sudden you start seeing builders either giving land or building water treatment plants or giving money towards building schools because they couldn't afford to hold on to that land. And the counties and cities knew it. So I have a feeling there was some arm twisting when it came to, you know what, we need to put schools out here. If you're going to be building out there, we don't have the money right now to do that. Until we do, you can't be building anything.
Like on north of Atlantic, on Lions, they put a charter school right there in that.
I went up in about a month and a half.
Yeah.
That building.
Yeah. Interesting,
I
isn't
drive
it?
by every day.
Lions in
That.
Atlantic.
North
Yeah.
of Atlantic, on Lions
Why would
School.
they do
They put a
that?
charter school right there on the farm. There.
Yeah, on the west side.
Yeah.
Yeah. That place went up in a hurry.
But it went up quick because it's a for-profit school. So.
Yep. And you got the right clientele right down the road.
The 7 bridges.
Yes and no.
The 7 bridges people there.
Yeah.
West of Atlantic, on Lions. South.
Yeah, but under 7 bridges, I mean, they're still gonna put their kids in St. Andrews, aren't they? Why would
Yeah.
why would they go
They're not
there?
gonna go to that school. It's really like an alternative to the poor middle school options that we have living out there, but that changed.
That has to be there to get the state and federal money to do the construction.
But they're still in Boca, so.
You know, my opinion towards all that is not duly I can do about it. I gotta figure out how my business is gonna thrive in a different market. I mean, I survived the early 2000s when nobody wanted to pay for a trainer. Still survived. There's still other things to do. That's why you need to be working on your networking. And I'm sure that, you've already talked to everybody on your list, reminding them that in a couple of weeks, you're gonna have a license. In a couple of weeks, you're gonna have a license. And how many of you have not yet told everybody that you're gonna have a license in 2 or 3 weeks? If you haven't, you might want to, so they don't wind up buying or selling something before you get a chance to get there. Now is critical, because now you're close enough where they're waiting around for you. But not if they don't know you're coming. All right. Who does the planning?
CPA.
The planning commission. on page 413. Bracket from lines 21 to 41. Or 13, starting with 20 to 41. As a planning commission member, am I appointed or elected? You are appointed, which means there's no politics involved in the selecting of the planning commission members. Now, my question is this. Do they typically have final authority when it comes to zoning? Or are they more of an advisory group? They're more of an advisory. There are 3 areas where they do have final authority. If you will turn to page 414, lines 1 through 21. If you need to have your subdivision plat approval, you're going to go up to the planning commission. If you need a site plan approval, you're going to have to go to them. If you're going to put up a sign, you have to apply to them. Question. Would the planning commission have final authority if you were asking for a special exception use? Would the planning commission have final authority if you were asking for a special exception use? Everybody look at me.
Yes.
Okay, now, did I just give you the 3 areas where they have final authority? Yes or no?
Yes.
Were special exceptions on that list?
No.
Then what's so damn hard?
No.
I don't know if it's on the list. Well, is it or isn't it? I don't see special exception uses. So if they ask me if they have final authority with special exception uses, I'm going to take a wild off the wall guess. The answer is no. Because you haven't figured after 20 chapters that if it ain't on the list, it ain't. Oh no, maybe they're going to sneak it on yours. Go home. No, I'm talking to everybody. Go home. What? Then I wouldn't have anybody to pick on. Okay, thank you. I remember to start the other.
See you next week.
All right.
You too.
These days.